They fired the IT guy for faking a virus. Then the real one struck when Leo, a dedicated IT technician at a major power grid control center, discovered a strange anomaly in the network traffic. He immediately sent out a company-wide alert. His boss, a slick executive with no tech background, accused him of fabricating the threat to get a bigger budget and fired him on the spot. 1 week later, as Leo was cleaning out his desk, every screen in the building went black. A single word flashed in red: Razor. The entire city's power grid began to shut down, and the only person who knew how to stop it was a man they'd just thrown out. Before we start, like this video and comment. I stand with Leo. If you support the underdog, your support helps us bring more powerful stories. Now, let's begin. There's a certain kind of silence that exists only in the heart of a critical infrastructure facility in the dead of night. It's not a true silence, but a low industrial hum. The sound of servers processing unimaginable amounts of data, of cooling fans whispering stories of immense computational load, of the very grid that powers a city breathing through its digital veins. For Leo Kovacs, this hum was a symphony. It was the sound of a system functioning, of order maintained, of his quiet, constant vigilance paying off. He was a sentinel in a room without windows, and his kingdom was a wall of monitors glowing in the dim light, each screen a pane into the health of Metropolis. He wasn't a hero, he was a mechanic, and he had just heard a single dissonant note in his symphony, a note that would cost him everything, before offering him a chance to save it all. Leo's world was one of logic and predictable patterns, a man of few words and many hoodies. He found solace in the clean, binary language of machines. They didn't lie. They didn't play politics. They either worked or they didn't. As the senior network analyst for Northeller Power and Light, his job was to ensure the former. He knew the grid's network topology like the back of his hand. Every server, every router, every substation's digital heartbeat. His office was a glass-walled cube overlooking the vast, darkened server farm of the grid control center, a place most executives visited only on PR tours. To them, it was a confusing jungle of blinking lights and cables. To Leo, it was a meticulously ordered map. His life was a quiet cycle of work, sleep, and maintaining the digital dams that held back chaos. He was content in his obscurity, a guardian who needed no recognition, until the anomaly appeared. It was 2:17 a.m. Leo was running a routine diagnostic sweep, a custom script he'd written named Sentinel. Most of the screen was a calming sea of green status reports. Then, a flicker. A single line of code, a data packet traveling from the administrative server cluster to a primary control node for Substation 7, one of the main distribution hubs for the city's downtown core. The packet was encrypted with a non-standard protocol, a cipher that wasn't in any of the company's playbooks. It was a ghost, a whisper where there should be none. Sentinel flagged it, assigning it a low-priority threat score. It was probably a glitch, a corrupted packet. But Leo's intuition, a sense honed over a decade of watching, prickled. He isolated the packet, ran it through a deconstruction algorithm. It wasn't corrupt. It was perfect, and it was hiding. It was designed to look like routine traffic, masquerading as a system update. But its destination was all wrong. This wasn't a glitch. It was a scout. For 3 days, he monitored it. The scout packet would appear at random intervals, always from a different internal IP, always heading for a critical control node. It was mapping the network, learning its pathways, looking for weaknesses. It was a digital equivalent of a thief casing a building, testing the locks on the doors. Leo compiled his evidence, network logs, packet captures, traffic analysis, into a concise report. He wasn't an alarmist. He was a scientist presenting data. He sent the report to his direct supervisor and carbon copied the head of infrastructure security, a former military man named Briggs who respected protocol. He expected a response, a meeting, a collaborative effort to hunt down the source. What he got was a summons to the 40th floor, the executive suite. The injustice was delivered not with a shout, but with a slick, condescending smile. Mr. Alastair Sterling, the newly appointed vice president of operational efficiency, didn't rise from his enormous leather chair when Leo entered. Sterling was everything Leo was not. polished, politically astute, and utterly ignorant of the technology that generated his bonus. He gestured to Leo's report on his tablet, as if it were a bad odor. "Kovacs," Sterling began, not waiting for Leo to sit. "This dossier of yours. I've had my consultants from Cypress Creek Consulting look it over. Their assessment," he paused for effect. "It's a phantom, a software ghost. Probably a bug in your own monitoring script." Leo tried to interject to explain the encryption, the pattern, the clear signs of intelligent design. "Sir, with respect, the packet structure indicates." Sterling held up a manicured hand. "What it indicates, Kovacs, is that you're trying to justify your department's exorbitant budget. I've seen your request for the new Sentinel 2.0 project. This reeks of a manufactured crisis." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial, venomous whisper. "We are a publicly traded company. We can't have our lead network analyst crying wolf about cyber attacks. It's bad for morale. It's terrible for investor confidence." Leo was stunned into silence. His integrity, his years of faithful service, were being reduced to a budgetary power play. He looked at Briggs, the security head, who stared fixedly at a point on the wall behind Sterling, his jaw clenched. Briggs knew, but Briggs reported to Sterling. "Effective immediately. You are suspended pending a review of your conduct," Sterling said, his tone final. "You will hand over your credentials and be escorted from the building. Consider the Sentinel project terminated." The walk of shame out of the building, past his colleagues who couldn't meet his eye, with a security guard at his elbow, was the most humiliating experience of Leo's life. The system hadn't just failed. It had actively punished him for doing his job too well. The spark of defiance ignited in his cramped, book-filled apartment. They had taken his job, but they couldn't take his knowledge. They had terminated Sentinel, but they didn't know about its older, smarter brother, Watchtower. Years ago, fearing exactly this kind of short-sighted corporate blindness, Leo had built a failsafe, a passive monitoring demon, hidden deep within the core network routers, invisible to the official system logs. It was his digital ghost, his silent partner. It didn't actively scan, it listened, and it sent its logs to an encrypted server he controlled via an anonymous, untraceable satellite link. It was a breach of protocol, a fireable offense 100 times over. But it was also his only tether to the truth. Accessing Watchtower's logs was like watching a storm build on the horizon. The scout packets had multiplied. They were no longer just mapping. They were delivering payloads. Tiny, encrypted modules were being nestled into memory of critical systems. The load balancers, the frequency regulators, the emergency shutdown protocols. They were dormant, waiting for a trigger. Leo's blood ran cold. This wasn't a virus. A virus is chaotic, destructive. This was a scalpel. It was a precision-engineered cyber weapon designed for maximum impact with minimal signature. He dubbed it Razor in his notes. He tried to reach Briggs directly, bypassing Sterling. His calls went straight to voicemail. His emails bounced back. He was completely cut off. A week after his firing, he was allowed to return to collect his personal belongings. The atmosphere in the grid control center was tense. Sterling's cost-cutting measures were in full effect, and the remaining staff were overworked and demoralized. As Leo was placing his few personal items, a framed photo of his dog, a well-worn copy of William Gibson's Neuromancer, a stress ball in the shape of a globe, into a cardboard box. The lights flickered. A collective, startled gasp went up from the floor. The massive wall of monitors, which moments before had been a kaleidoscope of data, went black simultaneously. The industrial hum of the server farm stuttered, choked, and died. For 1 second there was true, terrifying silence. Then, as the emergency generators kicked in, casting the room in a dim, reddish light, every single screen flickered back to life. Not with data, with a single, stark word, rendered in blood red, blocky text against a black background. Razor. Panic erupted. Technicians slammed on keyboards, getting no response. Phones began ringing off the hook. First from the newsrooms, then from the mayor's office, then from the State Emergency Management Agency. The city was going dark. Sector by sector, the power was dying. Traffic lights failed. Hospitals switched to generators. Subways ground to a halt. Subways ground to a halt. Alistair Sterling burst from his office, his face pale, his tie crooked. What is happening? He screamed at no one in particular. Fix it. Somebody fix it. He was a man watching his career, and possibly the city, burn to the ground. Leo didn't move. He watched the chaos for a moment, a strange calm settling over him. He set his cardboard box down. He walked slowly, deliberately, to his old terminal. Sterling saw him. Kovacs, what are you doing? You don't work here. Get away from there. Leo ignored him. He plugged a custom-made thumb drive into the machine. It bypassed the dead operating system and booted into a minimalist command line interface, his own creation. He began typing, his fingers flying across the keyboard. I'm activating a network-wide quarantine protocol, Leo said, his voice calm but carrying across the now silent room. Everyone had stopped to watch. Watchtower has mapped Razor's location. It's not a virus. It's a worm. It's already in the primary and secondary control systems. Your consultant's antivirus software can't see it because it's designed to look like a legitimate part of the system. It was probably uploaded months ago, hidden in a fake firmware update that your efficiency protocols automatically approved. Sterling stared, his mouth agape. That's impossible. The only thing that's impossible, Leo said, never take his eyes off the screen, is stopping this with the tools you left yourself with. You fired the safety net. On his screen, a complex map of the city's grid appeared. Red dots bloomed across it. Razor's infection points. Leo's software, Watchtower, began systematically isolating them, building digital firewalls around each infected subsystem, sacrificing small sections of the grid to save the whole. It was a desperate, brutal strategy, but it was working. The cascading failures slowed, then stopped. The lights on the map, representing city sectors, stabilized in a patchwork of red and green. At that moment, the main doors to the control center hissed open. A team of men and women in dark windbreakers with FBI Cyber emblazoned on the back moved in with purpose and authority. They were followed by a woman with sharp eyes and a demeanor of absolute control. She ignored Sterling completely and walked straight to Leo. Mr. Kovacs, she said, I'm Deputy Director Rachel Hale, National Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. We've been tracking this threat actor, a group we call Sandstorm, for 18 months. They specialize in infrastructure attacks. We lost their signal inside this network 3 weeks ago. She glanced at Sterling, who seemed to be shrinking under her gaze. We believe they had internal facilitation. Your Watchtower protocol just gave us the evidence we need. You also just saved the city. She turned back to Leo. The man who fired you is facing charges of criminal negligence and conspiracy. The job you loved isn't yours anymore. The job you were born for is. I'm offering you a lead position at our new Critical Infrastructure Defense Division. Your first task will be to help us hunt down Sandstorm. The world needs more sentinels. Mr. Kovacs, will you answer the call? Leo looked around the room, at the stunned faces of his former colleagues, at the screens that now showed a city slowly coming back to life. He had wanted validation, an apology, maybe his old job back. This was something else entirely. This was a purpose. He nodded slowly. Where do we start? The resolution was not a return to normalcy, but an ascent to a new reality. Leo Kovacs never got his old desk back. He got a new one in a secure facility, with clearance level that would make a general jealous. He learned that Razor was just one tool in a vast arsenal, and his work had only just begun. Alistair Sterling's career was over, his name synonymous with catastrophic failure. Leo didn't celebrate. He felt a quiet, grim satisfaction. He had proven that expertise matters, that truth has a weight that eventually crushes arrogance. He had learned that sometimes you have to be cast out to find your true place in the world. And he now knew with absolute certainty that the most important walls to guard are not made of brick and mortar, but of code and light. The silence of the grid had spoken, and he had been the only one listening. Leo proved that true expertise isn't about a title. It's about the courage to speak the truth, even when no one wants to listen. He became the guardian the world needed, not the employee Sterling wanted. If you believe in trusting the experts, like this video, subscribe to Digital Detective and share the story. Comment below. Have you ever been underestimated for knowing too much?